Good evening. This is Chairman Mike McCoo of the Town of Willington School Building Committee, calling the meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. Let's get right to present to speak. We'll start in the room. No one in the room. Matt Clark online.
Yeah, I had 3 points to make tonight. I thought the meeting last night was definitely not a town
Can you
meeting.
just announce your name, please? For the record.
Matthew Clark, 42 Burt Latham Road.
Thank you.
I thought that the meeting last night was definitely not a town meeting. Town meetings don't have time limits on how long attendees are allowed to speak. 2 minutes for citizens to express their opinions on proposed new school was completely unfair. The chairman of this committee, Mr. McCoo, has called this the biggest decision our town will make for the next 100 years. And we citizens are allowed to speak for 2 minutes. And that's absurd. If it wasn't so unfair, I guess, I think the time limit was an effort to silence people who are opposed to our town paying $20 million in interest payments over the next 20 years. The way the town meeting last night was managed, town officials supporting the proposed middle school had no time limits. That's a nice trick. Get asked a question by one of your supporters, and you get to drone on and on and on about it for as long as you want to. Meanwhile, we citizens, we're not allowed to speak. 2 minutes, that's it. You're done. And we get interrupted with 15 seconds left to go. Interrupt that person. No, your time's almost up. And that was completely unfair. I urge my fellow Willington residents to vote no on March 28th. Voting no to this $60 million plan is a yes vote for a smaller, more affordable $10 to $15 million building effort undertaken by a new school building committee. Not this school building committee, a new one. By the way, Gary Anderson is still listed as a member of the committee on the town's website, and I believe he resigned. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else online present to speak? Nick, go ahead.
Nick Teller, 49 Myrtle. First, I just want to see if the SBC can let the people know from a factual standpoint when a purchase and sales agreement comes from any property. Does the SBC have the authority to approve that, or does that have to go to the Board of Selectmen for discussion and vote? It's a factual thing that I think the people should know, and hopefully it can be answered. I think what Matt had to say was spot on. That was awful last night. That was absolutely awful to silence people like that. That's all I'll say in regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Others online? Do we have the hands up? No. Okay, last call online. Last call in the room. All set for now. Okay. Moving on to chairperson report. In the spirit of keeping with known facts, already public released facts, I'm concerned about a lot of the misinformation that's still in the public sphere. It was brought to my attention there was a leaflet distributed in town which has many misrepresentations and inaccurate information on it. So I'm not questioning at all the intention of that, other than I would encourage throughout this process, as we always have, that people look for the official information and ask questions to the official sources, so that whatever you're choosing with accurate information. As has been noted, present to speak, the town meeting was held last night and adjourned to referendum. There was some question and answer, as well as statements made by members of the public. As many have heard, there are challenges to the letter of intent and how it was signed by representatives of the town. While I was not involved in the signing, I'm still confident that the work of the SBC has been done in good faith and with proper legal guidance. Further, the letter of interest is essentially null and void at this time, since it expired last month. The issue can certainly be revisited after the results of the referendum are known, and I would assure everyone that if any further issues like that are before this committee, we will do the research to make sure that we do it correctly, as we feel we have done so far. That's it for chairperson's report. Approval of meeting minutes. In our agenda, we have two, February 15th and March 1st. The March 1st ones were not available in time to meet the posting requirements, so we're going to table those. But I would entertain a motion for the February 15th, 2023 minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes of February 15th?
Yes, Mike. Page 2. By the way, there's no page numbers on these minutes. It would be helpful. We had spoken about publishing the matrix of properties, and that was planned to be done. I was just wondering where it could be found so that the members of this committee and others could find it.
Okay, so is there a problem with the minutes, or you just want to know where the matrix is?
I would like to know where it could be found, and my added comment about putting page numbers on the minutes would be very helpful when it comes time to review minutes.
Got it.
That's all.
And
Thank you.
I'll address your question in a minute. I'm just taking notes here.
They're posted on the school document website, Ralph,
Yes, I was going to address
under
that.
land, under the land tab or folder.
Which is not always easy to find by Joe Average.
Okay, so we've answered that question. We're discussing the motion to approve the minutes. Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? Hearing none. Motion passes. Okay, communications. For those of you, if you haven't had time to look yet, earlier today, I updated a new zip file to each member of the committee with emails to the SBC inbox up to that time in the day today when I sent it out. So anything and everything up to that time today has been sent out to all the members. Many of you know that I was interviewed by the Connecticut Mirror for a story that has been published. I verified that responding to the reporter's request was appropriate during the blackout period before I returned the contact from the reporter. I was informed that it is appropriate to talk to the press during the blackout period, which is why I took the interview. That's all I have on communications. Anything else from the committee on communications?
Well, just going back to your chairman report, you had mentioned the importance of maintaining factual content. And you mentioned the letter of intent seems to be a lot of controversy swirling around in the press and elsewhere. Can we add that to the agenda just so we have a clear understanding of what you just said? I think it's expired, because I'm not fully understanding.
Yeah, there's nothing complex about it. The date on it expired in February.
So the option to purchase that property no longer exists?
No, the document is no longer in force.
Okay. And there are other aspects of it beyond that. Unclear. I thought that when we completed that, I thought that when we completed that document, when we reviewed it and voted to approve it, that it was going to the Board of Selectmen for approval. That was my understanding. Did I misunderstand that?
So are we talking about this in the world of communications, or do we want to talk about that document?
Well,
In which case we should add it to the agenda.
I'd be happy to do that, Mike.
Okay, so why don't we add that, hang on. Why don't we add that to the agenda?
Under old business. Or is it you? I'm not sure.
You need to make a motion.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right spot so I
He
can
wants to make a
advise the motion. Just give me a second, okay? Please. So let's do 7. Yeah, I guess there's a numbering problem on the on this. So I guess it would be 7. It should be E, because that RFP should have been a D. I'm not sure what you have. I may have
I have
screwed
a
up.
date. You may have screwed up. It's-
I screwed up mine.
Mine's fine.
Okay. Okay.
That's like, if you
Like,
have
I'm not
ELOI.
seeing
I had a lot of trouble with my printer this afternoon, so.
Been there.
Okay, so would you make a motion, please, to add item E to old business for the letter?
Sure. I move that we add item E, letter of intent to our old business agenda.
I'll second that. Discussion on the motion to add to the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
Sorry, I was muted. I said aye.
Okay. Seeing no opposition or abstentions, motion passes. Okay. Anything else in communications? Okay, subcommittee reports. I'll go first with land assessment. As I continue to look back over what we've done, I was still confident that our process in land assessment was intentionally designed to be objective, factual, and defendable. And I feel like it is living up to that standard. I was digging through, looking for any cracks in what we had done, and what I discovered was we hadn't posted a couple of the minutes for meetings of the land subcommittee. The minutes from April 4th, 22 and April 18th, 22 were sent from me as chairman of the subcommittee to the full committee, but somehow didn't get from.
Audio problem.
I know, Rob.
Alan, it's you.
Oh, that fixed
There we
it.
go.
Okay, so the minutes of 4/4/22 and 4/18/22 were sent to the committee. And I don't know what happened after that. I couldn't quite trace what happened to them, but they are not on the town website. So I sent them to the town clerk today. They did post them to the town website, which means we cannot approve them tonight anyway, because it's less than 24 hours. But I just want to point out that I found that one of those 2 meetings was a meeting that was also on Zoom. So there is a video, and I checked that video had been posted. That was, I believe, the 4/4 meeting. The 4/18 meeting did not have a video, it was an in-person only meeting. Both of those meetings included executive sessions and site walks. So I think it's important that information gets out there. I just want to let everyone know the status on that. And then we will add them to the agenda next meeting to approve those minutes, because they will have been posted long enough. And I'll keep looking for anything else like that that needs to be cleaned up. Anything for land subcommittee?
Tell me those dates again, Mike.
4/4/22 and 4/18/22. Anything else for the land subcommittee? All right, let's move on to finance.
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay,
We did not meet, and we should have an update soon from our budget from
okay,
financial manager, but I don't have that this evening.
okay, so you don't have an update. Okay, we have spent some money, we've made some POs, we've submitted some invoices, so I think it'd be good to get an update as soon as.
I will ask for one.
Okay. Communications,
Nothing.
nothing to report. Okay. Anything from the committee for subcommittees? Catherine?
I was just gonna say that I believe the Willington Wire is looking for an update from the SBC committee. Phil, I don't know if you got that notification, but
What we put out right now.
Explanatory text is really all you need to put out.
It's not gonna be, it would be out after the referendum. What's the point of that?
So
Okay. Yeah, I think because of between the combination of the blackout period and the fact that the wire wouldn't come out till after the referendum,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to take a pass on this one. It's good that you brought it up, but Anything else for subcommittees before we move on? All right. Old business, 7A, owner's project manager Collier's update. Scott?
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. Scott Pellman, Collier's project leaders. Not a lot to update on this one. Nothing has changed since my report to the committee 2 weeks ago, except for the fact that I did speak with Eagle earlier in the week, and we did just receive their final report for the phase 2 work that they were performing. It's quite a large file, so I've downloaded that, and I'll be putting that into a share file to get that off to Mike after the meeting. But nothing else to report. Their work is now complete.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott before we move on? Catherine?
Scott, the environmental phase 1 and the environmental phase 2, part A and B, all of those reports have to get included in the EDO 49 or 53. Is that correct or no?
Yeah, they would be attached to the SCG 053, which is part of the overall grant application. So yes, all of that due diligence work is submitted to the state as part of your grant application.
Along with the appraisals, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else? We're all set with Scott? Okay. RFQ for construction manager and RFQ for architectural design. I have not had a chance today to go back through any of the latest comments. Phil, were the last comments we had updated to the documents? Yes.
Yes, and I don't know that anyone has sent you any. The only feedback.
Everything that I got, you have.
Then it's all been updated.
Okay. Are there any more concerns about those 2 documents? I'd like to get them out on the street. We're a few days behind our original intended schedule, which I don't feel too bad about, only because we've been very busy. But I would like to get them moving. Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great to have a chance to get a final look at these things before we post them live. Because we haven't discussed at any length.
Sure.
Or compiled or had the opportunity to, discuss any compiled reports. The other thing I want to be sensitive of is what dates where posting on these, in particular, just being sensitive to the timing that it might impact the responsiveness or the response related to how close, either, concurrent with the referendum or soon after, or not providing enough time afterwards for those potential respondents that are interested but don't want to put time in until they until they know there's actually a project, because there can be significant costs to prepare some of these items. So I'm wondering what schedule we're settling on here, which is part of the reason why I want to see it.
Okay, good comment. Catherine, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, I know you guys are looking for comments, but quite honestly, I haven't had time to look at either one of those. So I'm asking if we can have a little bit more time to digest the RFQs that you sent over for both of those. I don't know if you can extend the deadline to maybe next Monday.
So why don't we do this, based on Jim's comments and your comment, why don't I'll get the latest version with the edits that Phil has included back out to people.
Perfect.
And just ask for kind of a consensus. It's not, remember, we're not voting by email. I'm just asking for a consensus that what you expected to see there is right. If there's a problem, you let me know. And our intent would be somewhere around the time of the referendum for them to hit the street, so that anyone who is, if the referendum passes, then anyone who's going to put in a proposal knows that it's live, that it's real. Scott, how do you feel about that schedule? I know it pushes us back a little.
Yeah, I mean, again, we were trying to keep on the schedule to, look for that fall 26 opening, and it was getting tight. As far as the qualifications go, an architectural firm, and again, I did this for 30 years, going after school projects. The qualification package is something that'll come together pretty quick. We were looking to have all those qualification packages in, just prior to the referendum. So when you select your OPM, then that individual can work shortlist and then get the RFPs. And the RFPs is really where the architects need to, spend some time, sharpen their pencil, put their fee proposals together. I don't think, again, getting it out in advance of the referendum, I still think it's such a wonderful project, a very clean project that you're going to see a lot of interest, as far as a qualification package.
Okay, so keeping all of that in mind, I'll get it out to people. We'll try to keep it moving. Catherine?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I appreciate what Scott was saying with the architectural design component with the qualifications. I guess I would like to have a little bit more discussion with the group regarding a construction manager, because we really haven't even talked about the need for having a construction manager versus a GC, or for that matter, a delivery method of how we're going to construct this project. So
we have, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I guess, hence the reason for requesting more time. I'd like to take a deeper dive into both of those. I just would like to have more of a conversation on the qualifications for the construction manager as a group. I mean, we all know that we're going to need an architectural design. That's a no-brainer. But I'm just, I think we should discuss as a group the need for a construction manager.
So we have discussed some in previous meetings, including, I think, the last report with Scott, we talked about this also, that we would, that it seems that the most effective method of delivery to protect the town and the budget is to use a construction manager in one of two ways, probably construction manager at risk. Scott did mention another construction manager and there was another word or two after, I can't remember what it was now. Scott, you want to fill that in?
Advisor.
Yeah, the construction manager advisor, right.
Okay, so it seems the consensus is that is the best way to protect the town and the budget.
Mike, was that voted on, or was that voted on already by the committee, or?
No, but it's been talked about in multiple meetings. I'm not sure if it's something that requires a committee vote. We can certainly do that.
It might have been in the last meeting. I know I was out of the last meeting, but I don't remember it coming up any time before. But regardless, I think if we could have more time to review that and maybe put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
I'm concerned about schedule. If we go out, that's 2+ weeks to the next. It would be like
Selection's supposed to be at the next meeting.
Can I ask what the schedule in the latest is, just because we haven't seen it, and I commented on that as well. Like, what are you carrying for the schedule?
I think you have the milestone schedule.
Have the dates in the RFQ that we have, are those what we're trying
You
to
should have
hold?
a separate milestone schedule.
Yeah, well, those aren't, I don't believe those are up to date either.
Well, we're pretty close on those.
There was an updated milestone, sorry, Mike, there was an updated milestone schedule that was reviewed, I believe, at the last building committee meeting and distributed. And at that time, that did reflect the anticipated dates for the RFQs, but certainly, yeah, those are open to, final reviews by the committee and issuance.
Yeah, well, the schedule I have is March 7th as the release date for the RFQs for architect and CM. So
Yes.
I'm asking, are we still trying to hold, are we giving them one less week to prepare their qualifications data? Or less than that?
No,
Or
we're
are we pushing
understanding
this
that
at
the
pass?
whole thing is shifting out a
Okay.
week or more, but we're trying to not have it be 3 weeks out.
I guess, Mike, and that goes back to my concern. If we push this thing like soon after the referendum, and then it doesn't go through, we're asking respondents to put forth a significant amount of effort to prepare multiple copies, pay for printing, et cetera, to respond to a package that will not go through. My concern is that if this becomes a different project at a later date, or if, we revise this, that it's going to severely impact the willingness to respond to any future requests for qualifications. It's a risk. I'm not saying necessarily it's a significant one, but I think it's something to consider with the date. So.
All right, so here's what I think we should do then, is I'll get the latest copy out. Hang on, Catherine, I'll get you. I see you there. I'll get the latest copy out. You all can provide feedback. If people are feeling pretty good about what we're seeing, we will either have consensus by that, or we will wait to the next meeting, or we'll call a special meeting to get it released. I'll see how the feedback goes. Catherine?
Mike, yeah, and if I can just add to that, so depending on the feedback, if we do have a special meeting, are we assuming that it's going to be after we know what happens with the referendum? Or are we still?
There's a meeting 3 days after the referendum, so that wouldn't be, it wouldn't be worth calling a special meeting, right? 1 day after. No, I gotta get my,
The week after.
it's a week after, sorry. So I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how the feedback goes.
Yeah, because I mean, to Jim's point, he's got a really good point. Why would we solicit qualifications for a designer and a construction manager at risk if we don't even know if we have a project yet?
Well, I think Scott answered that.
Yeah, I know
mean,
he said it was
doesn't mean
just
you agree with it.
qualifications. I understand that, but the logistics of it and the optics of it is, I don't know. I disagree with what Jim was saying.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Jim, what's your point? What's your recommendation instead?
Just that we be sensitive to schedule. I mean, I don't think if we have a referendums on the 28th, asking for responses on the 31st is, per the current schedule, is a bit unwarranted, because there'll be a significant amount of time invested by the responding firms already.
Right, but
For
we're
them to
already
just sit there and be
pushing
thrown out. I get that, but we haven't seen those dates. So I guess my recommendation would be that we go out, probably, I don't know what the date is. Give me a second to pop up on my calendar, sometime the second week of April at minimum. Sometime early in the second week of April. I don't know what our meeting dates are off the top of my head. But that would allow appropriate time by the time we get this thing out for firms to, discuss, decide whether they're going to pursue. I'm sure we'll get some heavy interest. Probably wait before it's investing any significant effort in pulling some material together. We're trying to customize proposal to this project so that they look good and, have a fair chance of scoring highly, et cetera. And then have ample time to finalize a proposal following the referendum close, assuming it's a positive. So that's just my personal experience. I'd also like to see, before I stop talking about this for the time being, I do feel like the best proposals and the best respondents, particularly on AE services, do request some sort of project approach or project plan that is personalized. And I think I mentioned this in my comments to you, or my comments on the RFQ, that we should ask for a project approach description. We asked for it in the CM at risk proposal, but not in the AE services proposal. Something that asks them to say why they'd be a good fit for this specific project, instead of just stock resumes and company info that really isn't relevant to us. We can look at that, but that personalized effort really can go a long way. And I think it honestly should be a portion of, sensitivity to the unique needs of this project, should potentially be even a scoring metric. All that being said, Scott, I think these RFQs are great. I have no, larger concerns. I think you did a good job. I just, I know responding to these things on a regular basis, I know we personally try to make a great stride in personalizing, any of our approaches on any qualifications packet we go through. And I honestly expect to see that and be looking for that somebody's willing to give Willington individualized attention instead of just ripping out a quals package that they have, boilerplate. So that's it. I'll stop talking, let others know. Thank you.
Catherine?
I'm all set. He said what I was thinking, so.
Okay. Any other, Yeah.
Questions, and I think, Jim's knowledge in this world, if that's where this comes into play for us. And Scott, maybe you can answer this. Is it simply because of our time frame in the calendar year and the close proximity to the deadline to apply to OSCGR that is making this maybe a little bit more challenging? I'm guessing it may be standard to do these things in a broader time frame. Is it not? Are we trying to work within a really narrow time frame here and can't meet, to Jim's point, a little bit more look from firms to our project?
Yeah, I mean, well, ultimately, we were trying to achieve the goal of a fall, 2026 opening. And, you cannot cut, when you're spending this kind of money, you can't cut down on the design time. I mean, really, you've got to do the specific milestones, schematic DD, CD. You've got to, allow appropriate time at each one of those stages to do the estimates, reconcile the estimates, do value engineering, value management, quality control, review of the documents. So again, the schedule that we put together had an eye on achieving that goal. Now, can the end date push down further? Certainly. I mean, that's something to be discussed at a later date. Normally, just so everyone understands the process, with the qualifications, what you would normally do, what the state recommends that you do is you shortlist to no more than 4 at the end of the qualification package, and then you interview those individuals. So then you would ask for the proposal package, which would include a lot more of the detailed information and approach. But you'll be able to whittle down a lot of the CMs in this instance, just based on history, experience, how they've performed on other projects within the quals package. I do know we have talked about it before, but I will say in this marketplace, this day and age time, especially with the overall cost and scope of this project, having a construction manager on board up front, not only for their detail or their estimating expertise, their constructability reviews, the ability to put out early packages potentially for long lead procurement items such as switchgear, some of the other things we're seeing in the industry right now, certainly is an advantage. With a GC, you're going to be locked into, we're going to bid it, and the low bidder gets gets it. In this case, using a CM, you're able to select who you want to, in essence, build the job, and they're going to be putting out all the trade packages on your behalf, bringing those trade packages in and managing those. But the overall coordinator, having a CM approach, not only with their ability to be a little bit more flexible, put bidding packages back out if there's issues in the industry, which we've seen over the last few years. We've had to put steel packages back out, low voltage. We've actually worked with CMs to do early steel detailing, which can gain about 2 months on a construction process by allowing an early package to go out, have the steel detailing done under the pre-construction services of a CM. So, again, my opinion and experience, especially working in the current market with all the procurement issues we've seen, would be certainly to pursue a CM over a GC. I think there's a lot of advantages.
I say I agree with that 150%. I think that's the only real place to go here.
thank you.
Yeah, I asked my question before, but I'm just gonna throw in a comments here. We agreed last meeting that we were gonna have feedback for this RFP or PQ and the RFQs by March 6th. So this goes back to that constant rolling date where we're already further, we keep pushing ourselves further out. If there is a positive referendum, we are closing in on that we have already closed ourselves into that fall date of opening. So I just want to be cautious of that. Like every time we have something come up like this, we need to meet some of these deadlines. And I feel like we've been struggling to do that a couple times now. And it just keeps pushing everything back. So I understand the feedback's important, but we got to make sure that we try and stick to some of those things. And
I mean, with all due respect, Phil, I think Scott sent these to us on February 15th, and we only saw them, following the first meeting, the meeting on March 1st. So as
Jim,
much, there is a point of time where we have to evaluate
Can you
this.
hear me?
Yes,
Jim, I'm trying to call people who have their hands
Sorry.
up.
apologies.
Your input is very valuable, but I have to let other people speak too. Ann?
Two things. And number one, going back to Catherine's saying that we need to have a conversation and decide, Catherine, was it between a construction manager and a general contractor? Is that what you were suggesting that we discuss?
Yeah,
It
essentially.
seems
And-
like, okay, great. It seems like we're kind of going there now. So maybe we should have that conversation now, make a decision, because that's going to be really important for when we start looking at qualifications.
I
My
agree.
second question is for Scott. Scott, if we were to, Jim, were you suggesting April 3rd, we accept all the packages? Is that what you were suggesting? Pushing it
No,
up?
I was suggesting, considering if we're holding the referendum on the 28th, April 3rd is
The
the
deadline?
31st. I forget the date in the document. Let me look at it right
Okay,
now.
so
I was suggesting pushing it back out another week at least,
Okay.
just to give firms a chance to respond appropriately.
okay, my question for Scott is, could we do even a compromise of that and then stay on track? I have the same concern Phil has, that every single step along the way, we seem to be pushing it up. So Scott, what do you think about that?
But the real critical path is to get the architect on board. The CM can follow a few weeks later, but we want them on board specifically. And I think the milestone schedule, I don't have it in front of me at the moment, did anticipate that those interviews would be a week or two later, just trying to get the information in the door. But the real critical path is getting the architect on board so they can begin the design as soon as possible.
Catherine?
Will we need we will not need the construction manager to help us obtain a architect?
No,
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 okay,
you want that to be a completely separate process, and you want to control that. But no, you wouldn't. Normally, you'd have your architect on at the same time your architect before, again, because you really want the CM around for the schematic estimating, the project planning, and the design reviews, starting at schematics.
so will you be helping us with the architect portion, the architect selection portion?
If I am lucky enough to, be selected after the RFQ, RFP process, yes, the way I put the schedule together is the schedule recommended that you have your owner's project manager on board
Jump on this couch.
a couple days after a successful referendum, because you want your OPM putting together your RFPs. You want them providing your draft contracts, which you guys would review. Again, a firm like mine, we don't just take the architect's contract. We don't take the standard AIA contracts. We've modified them significantly to benefit our clients. So you want to have your OPM on board. So when you put out your RFPs, you're putting it out with the contract. So the architects and the CM know what your contract requirements are going to be. So you don't get into a month or two of negotiating a contract and you lose your, ability there. If you provide the contract up front and you state, do you take any exceptions to this? You can certainly take those exceptions under consideration within your selection.
Okay, thank you.
It's
Can I
always
do
good to
one?
know if somebody's just going to accept your contract, or if you accept somebody, you don't want them to fight you tooth and nail for the next month on your contract requirements.
Okay, thank you. Could I do one more thing? To move Catherine's suggestion that we discuss that, can I move that we look at hiring a construction manager at risk?
I'll second.
Okay. That'll open it for discussion anyway.
We have a motion and a second to use the construction manager at risk method. Discussion on the motion.
Yes, if I can go. I want to comment on the previous conversation, but this is germane as well. I agree. I understand everything Scott's saying, but I agree with Jim for the practical reasons he's outlining on not acting on these immediately. But more importantly, it's important for us to also recognize that townspeople are going to make a decision here. And it's not appropriate to me for this committee to be contracting for services prior to that. And for that reason, I oppose this motion and acting in these RFPs till after the referendum, which just makes sense to me.
Okay, Catherine?
I was just gonna say, thank you, Anne, for bringing that motion up. I think, and just for clarity, this is just qualifications for a construction manager. It's not actually the RFP. It's just the qualifications for a construction manager. And I think we should definitely use the word at risk moving forward if we are gonna vote on this method. So I thanked Anne for this because that was one of the comments. I was gonna say that we should actually vote on a delivery method of how this project is gonna be built, when it's gonna be built. The second part is that with respect to qualifications, I don't think we should solicit for qualifications until after a successful referendum. And I know, Scott, you said we have a little bit of time.
Catherine, can we stay on the motion about the delivery method, please? The motion is to select a construction manager at risk method.
Right. But I'm also commenting on the schedule of it. So this is part of the qualifications for a construction manager. So my point is regarding the schedule of soliciting for qualifications, I don't think it should happen until after referendum. With respect to the architectural piece, which I know we're still sort of discussing that.
Catherine, we're in a motion specifically to select the construction manager at risk delivery method.
Yeah.
That's our motion right now. So let's just talk about that motion.
And we're going to go back to the architectural RFQ after.
We are not talking about anything else until we clear the motion.
Okay.
We have to talk about the motion on the floor.
All right. So I agree with the motion and I agree with construction manager at risk.
Ann, are you fine with the slight modification, the friendly modification to the term that specifies its construction manager at risk?
Yes, I believe that was what the motion said, but yes, I
Yes.
agree completely. It should be
I
at risk.
think that's what you said, but I'm confused now.
Yes.
Okay, Ralph, did you have a comment on this motion?
Not on this motion, Mike.
I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else with comments on this motion? Jim, do you have a comment on this motion?
Sorry, I keep getting pop-ups every time I try to go to unmute. Yeah, I support construction manager at risk. I don't necessarily think we need to delay issuing the RFQ. I just think we need to be sensitive about responses. You know, because it's not contractual. They don't have to start doing anything.
So same thing I
after.
told Catherine, let's stick to this motion. Just
Gotcha.
the debate about construction manager at risk.
Then I am done. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we all cranky tonight or is it just me? It might just be me.
It's just you, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the
I wasn't.
clarification.
I'll call him out.
Are you talking about this
I am
motion?
talking about this
Okay.
motion.
Yes.
I wondered if Ann would accept a friendly amendment. Her motion was to hire a construction manager at risk. If Ann would accept a friendly amendment to the motion to consider pursuing a construction manager at risk. Because let's be honest, there is absolutely nothing to hire until such time as we have a project. And to Peter's point, we would not be expending any funds. We have no funds to expend.
Right. Excellent.
I agree, Erica.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think Jim seconded the motion. Are you okay with that amendment?
No,
Jim?
Catherine did, I think.
Oh,
Catherine
Catherine, you
did.
did. I'm sorry. Whoever seconded it.
Erica, would you consider solicit for construction manager at risk?
I'd be open to you all considering anything other than hire.
I agree.
What you're considering is an RFQ, that's not actually hiring, so you're asking for requests for qualifications, so you're
Right.
not hiring anyone at this point. That would be inappropriate.
Okay, further discussion on this motion.
I agree.
Let's vote on this motion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
I,
Are there opposed or abstentions?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so let's do a roll call vote. I'll give it a shot. Ralph,
let's see, this is the RFQ for construction manager at risk. I would vote aye.
well, this is only the agreement that we are going to use the construction manager at
Correct.
risk methodology.
Delivery method, yeah.
So it's an aye.
Okay, thank you. Ann,
I,
James,
Aye.
Brianna,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Peter, nay?
Nay.
Okay, sorry, I shouldn't have put words in.
It's okay.
I just verifying. I'm an aye. Is that it for members? We don't have anybody else on? Okay. So we have 6 yay, 1 nay, and I think that's every right, where there's 7 of us tonight, right? Okay. Okay, so motion carries. Now back to the discussion of the RFQs for the CM and the design. Ralph, you've been waiting to speak on that?
It helps to unmute.
Yes.
What about the RFQ for owner's project manager? When does that person come on board?
We're not gonna have that discussion with Scott in the room. Well, we'll talk about that tonight.
Okay, but I think that's a consideration when we discuss the other two.
Well,
Sorry.
the intent of that solicitation is for post referendum.
Understood.
So the goal would be very close to after the referendum if it is a positive referendum. All right. Anything else, Catherine?
Aren't all 3 of them post referendum, essentially?
I was answering his question. Yes, I was
sorry?
answering his question about the OPM, which,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
right, because that already went out as an RFP. Whereas these, we're talking about RFQs on these, but yes, all of it is post referendum. You're right.
Okay, so regarding what I was saying earlier about the timing, I know I may have been a one-off where I didn't have the time to look at either one of those RFQs. I'm not sure if the rest of the committee needs the same time, but as a sort of compromise or somewhere in the meeting, somewhere in the middle, I would feel more comfortable, I think, issuing the architectural design RFQ, requesting qualifications from an architectural firm as soon as we can. But as far as the construction manager at risk, maybe pushing that out and not soliciting them both at the same time. I guess my point was that we know we're going to need an architectural design, and that is sort of the immediate need. And while we do need a construction manager at risk, roughly the same time, we have a little bit of time in the schedule to solicit that RFQ. So I guess my point is, I was requesting time on both of those, but if we could have at least a little more time on the RFQ for construction manager at risk, that would be helpful. I don't know if that helps or doesn't, but.
That does. So going back to what I said before, again, I think what I'll do is I'll resend the latest versions to make sure we have all the edits out by email to everyone. And I will resend the updated milestone schedule. Hopefully that will help us all kind of look at this as a global thing, this whole discussion. And if there are no objections to moving things forward, we'll keep moving. If we need discussion, I'll call a special meeting if need be. And I'll just keep you advised. I'll keep the committee advised by email. Obviously, we can't do business by email, but I'll keep you advised of the progress. And if there's need for a special meeting, we'll call a special meeting. Does that seem fair?
Yes.
Are we ready to put this one to bed for tonight?
I would love to hear some dates. Like, can we just put some dates to this?
What do you have in there now?
I want to know, tell me what you want for issuance date, tell me what you want for questions by, and tell me what you want due by, and that's for the CM at risk and the architect.
Well, based on what I just postulated, we can't give you dates right now because we're sending this back out to have everyone look at it and be sure.
So why would we post this even before our next meeting?
Well, because we
I
can
think
save a
that's-
week or two.
Can you remind us what was on the original schedule?
It was already posted a week ago.
It was supposed to go out on the 7th and I did not even get it out. I didn't even send it out to you guys early enough for that to happen.
So you're saying that the architectural design RFQ already went out?
No,
In the
Oh.
schedule, it would have.
it should have.
Right, but can you just tell us the date?
On the 7th.
March
Right.
7th was when it
What
was supposed to go out.
What's on the calendar right now? What's on the RFQ? It says issuance date of March 7th. Questions submitted by March 21st and qualification statement due by March 30th. And I think if we don't put a date on it, it's not going to happen. If we can say today, you need to have your feedback by this date so that we can post it on this date. Then once you figure out when you can post it, it's easy to figure out the rest of the timeline. If you can do it, and I think I hear people saying CM can wait, we're really talking about the architect. If you could do it so that if you do have a positive referendum on the 28th, that you could then go back out on the 5th of figuring out who you're the P part of it, right?
The what part of it?
The RFP part of it.
Oh,
I'm not sure I understand that timeline. That's why I want to make sure that, because what I heard Jim say before was a little bit different. And now he's got his hand up, so maybe you'll answer the question.
Jim, you wanna take a shot at that one?
I'm trying to shut up and wait till I'm called. So,
Sorry.
no. So I mean, I don't think we need to make a motion on it, but I'd propose that, assuming we get that out, we strive to get the RFQ for architectural services at least out by Monday, the 20th. I would propose we wait until we push out the responses back until April 10th or 11th. That gives 3 weeks and a week post-referendum, or a week and a half post-referendum to, compile, specialize, et cetera. We can have questions come just after the referendum, maybe by the 31st of March. That way we're not getting questions and having to deal with it, or I'm throwing these out there for comment. You guys can say,
I'm making notes now so we can beat this up. Yep, go ahead.
and what more do you want beyond that? So, interviews, I'm looking at the notes on the schedule short list. Yeah, and I think we can push the following dates for designer selection, can kind of shift that extra week and a half accordingly without a detrimental impact on the overall schedule. But I will say that we do, these things are going to move faster and it is good to have appropriate time to review. So, as we have motions on the table, we need to be responsive to turn these around quickly.
Let me just make sure I've got the dates you said right. On the street by the 20th, questions by the 31st, and a complete proposal by 4/10. Were those the dates you used?
Yeah, that's what I used. Maybe
Okay.
4/11.
Okay, I just want to make sure I had the dates right for the sake of the discussion here.
Yeah, and that's under the assumption that, we as a board can get back with any comments by, Saturday. End of day Saturday, perhaps, so you guys can finalize Sunday, Monday, and
I'm gonna
Yeah,
try
sure.
not to work on Sunday despite having put in many weekend hours.
I know, but we do it anyway, so I just assume it's a work day for this stuff.
That is true. Hang on, I'm finding my calendar now so I can.
Scott, I just asked Scott, is, you know, a week. Well, shoot, now I can't find the original date, but is, you know, 9 days gonna kill us? 10 days? In your overarching schedule needs?
No, so if I understand James correctly, you were talking about receiving the architect's qualification package on the 10th.
10th or 11th, yeah, Mondays are tough to get receipt, but.
Yeah, and so what I had on the schedule was applied, the last milestone schedule that was supplied to the committee. Had it shortlisting at a special meeting, so you could shortlist at your regular meeting on the 19th. It's just not gonna give you, you know, a lot of time. You know, typically I would expect for the architect, probably 12 to 14 qualification packages. You know, so if the committee can, you know, buckle down and, you know, it's a lot of work looking at all those packages, as you know. If they can do it within that time frame, and then, you know, if you've got your OPM on board to get the schedules together, and then once you've reviewed the qualification packages to make sure that the proposal, the committee is very quick in pulling together any specific criteria that they want included in the proposal package. Certainly your OPM will be able to help you a lot with that, but there may be some specific things after reading the qualification packages that you want to make sure the shortlisted architects respond to. You know, the schedule that we had put together then had those RFPs going out on April 20th, receiving them on the 11th of May, and interviews on May 17th.
And just as a clarification, Scott, we're waiting for the new OPM to prepare RFPs for services?
Yes, yeah, as I stated, you want that
Yep.
that OPM, it needs to be the contracts. They, you know, need to work with you
I
specifically
agree. Yep.
to pull that together. So yeah, you should have your OPM on board. And again, we anticipated the OPM interviews being your first meeting in April 5th or thereabouts.
So would members be amenable to a special meeting on the 12th, which the only purpose is to review the proposals that came in on the 10th or the 11th?
Form a subcommittee.
Or maybe we could do a subcommittee just to work them down to a smaller number, especially if we end up getting what Scott thinks we might get 10 or 12 of them. It might be easier to have a subcommittee break them down.
Like you're talking about, sorry, and speak before recognized here, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Ralph Toulis, please speak.
Are we talking about a short list on the 10th or 11th? Not
Yes.
not a recommendation for the architect.
Talking about a short list around
Okay.
the 11th or 12th.
Fine, I'm good.
Okay. So let's say this is our tentative plan. This is the schedule that we're shooting for. And as I said before, I'll get the information out to people right away. I'll get the milestone schedule out to people right away. And if there's consensus that we didn't miss anything, we will have it on the street next week for the design. And I'll follow close behind with the CM. We seem like we're on track? Any more comments on this?
Just that I think staggering the CM by week is only going to be beneficial because the workload to review these things is going to be a lot. You know, to do them both at the same time is going to be an undertaking. So I think giving us that buffer and separating these instead of having them do close to the same time is a great idea.
I think it's probably good. I mean, we all have a limited capacity of all the other things in our lives too. So, yeah. Okay, Thank you all for the lively debate on that, and we did actually work something out, which is good. I'd like to move item D, which is the OPM RFPs and Qs, to after new business, just so that we can keep Scott through new business and then kick him out. Is there any objection to that?
No,
Those rather harsh words there, Mike. We don't mean to kick him out.
yeah,
Doesn't
he
participate.
can leave on his own.
Let me just do it this way.
That's fine.
Okay,
You
yeah,
can move him now to the.
yeah. So, yeah, but I don't want him to wait around either. I want to keep him going. So, so we'll move item D down below new business. We've added item E to old business, which is letter of intent. Pete, you had questions on that? You wanted some discussion on that?
I did. So from what you said, I said earlier, Mike, that document is now expired.
Correct.
At the time we acted on it, and that was the evening we were in the hall school gym. We approved it in executive, I should say, we discussed it in executive session, the final draft of it, and then we approved it at that special meeting before the public forum. Is my recollection of all this.
I don't remember the exact course of events.
I remember it vividly. The only thing is I was insistent that we act on it in public, and we did.
Okay,
And my understanding was that it left us and went to the Board of Selectmen for approval because it's a town contract that we were entering into, an option to purchase property potentially. I thought that was the path. Now I'm reading in the press and elsewhere that this was not the case, and it was signed, it was not signed. It's unclear to me, and I would like to understand it, what happened after it left our school building committee. We approved the language, it went to the Board of Selectmen.
I don't know how the process moved after it left to the SBC.
Mike, can I-
First of all, I wasn't chair at the time. Catherine?
yeah, do you mind if I just offer some
Please.
clarification, hopefully? So, Peter, the letter of intent was the SBC's way of securing that site so that it wasn't sold to somebody else. Do you recall us discussing that?
I do.
Okay, so that letter of intent, basically, it could have been any owner. So we send it to an owner. It's a letter of intent. It's saying, we have intentions of purchasing this property as a, if, with the exception of successful referendum. So when that, you were asking about the expiration date. So that date was provided to us by the attorney. It was a recommendation. It's typically 90 days from the date that you sign the letter of intent. It could have been 30 days. It could have been 60 days. We had put 90 days under the recommendation of the attorney because we thought that that would be at the same time of when the referendum was going to happen. As you know, the referendum slipped out a couple weeks, and so the letter of intent actually expired before the referendum is. So that document is a static document. It's not a contract. It's basically just our intentions. Here's what we intend to do. But to Mike's point, it expired because the days have expired. It doesn't mean that the owner is not still willing to hold their property for this project.
Right, but there is even less obligation. And I think at this point, I think that's probably,
Yeah,
that's
there was
probably
never any
just as
obligation,
well.
though.
Right, and
Yeah,
I
there was
think.
never
the fact
any
it's-
obligation. It was all just the intent. You know, we didn't
Right.
sign a contract with her. It was just it was just our intent. Here's our intent. Here's an agreement. But it wasn't a contract. It was basically stating that we have an agreement. It could have been a handshake, but it was put on a piece of paper, so.
Okay, so I don't know if there's anyone in the room who has more information on what happened after.
I can tell you, we worked on the advice of counsel, and I've now asked for a further legal review of the process. But again, it's a non-binding agreement, not a contract. A non-binding agreement. It held the town to nothing, nor the signed the landowner. So,
If I could just add, I worked closely with the attorney on that. So, I mean, like Erica said, it was with the work of the attorney guiding us how to draft that letter, what to put for the number of days. I think the number of days, like I said, the intent was for us to have it line up with the referendum date.
Understood.
and just so the record is clear, I had no discussions with the attorney about the drafting of said letter.
That's
That was
correct.
actually at the time.
It was between myself as the chair at the time and the attorney.
So I don't know, the SBC, I don't think can answer your question. We don't have that information.
I see.
Does that help, Peter? Does,
It doesn't answer my basic question. I'm less concerned about the expiration of the document than I am. I believed when we acted on that document and approved it, that we were sending it to the Board of Selectmen for action.
Yep.
That was my understanding.
which they did, they signed it. So
Who
the
did?
letter of intent was active for 90 days. Because that's what was in the letter of intent.
I looked through all the Board of Selectmen minutes. And I could not
You're correct,
find an
there was no
action on the
action.
document.
There was no action at the Board of Selectmen, you are correct. It was signed under,
That makes no sense to me.
Well, let her finish what she's saying.
I'll further discuss it at the Board of Selectmen.
So we have no more information here in the SBC as to what happened to it after it left our hands. What we can do as the SBC is we can recognize the document as expired. We can also recognize that even if it wasn't expired, it held the SBC to nothing. But regardless, even if some
I always
people,
understood that. That's
Right.
clear to me when
Right.
Catherine was chair, it's clear now.
so at this point, the only thing we can be doing is following, keeping our process moving, see what the townspeople decide to do at the referendum, and then decide what to do going forward. I will tell you, because of the controversy swirling around this, I believe we will be extra cautious about next steps if there is a positive referendum. Would you agree with that?
That's reassuring to hear. But I'm troubled by the notion that we acted on this document and then sent it forward and no one can explain what happened after that. That's the impression I'm getting, with all due respect.
Well, I think we're,
I
I think
recognize we
we're-
have no control over that.
Right.
That
I
doesn't
think
seem
we're-
right to me.
Catherine?
Peter, I'm just trying to understand what your concern is. So the letter of intent was created, it was signed by the owner, it was signed by the Board of Selectmen, and
No,
it's
it
just a-
wasn't, Catherine. That's the problem. It was signed by a selectman, and that's what the question about the process was. About how the one selectman versus the board, or actually with the board.
Oh, is that
how
what-
was
Is that what his
derived.
actual question is?
Yes, that is what his question is, and that's not SBC stuff. We don't know that answer.
I see. Okay.
Well, I think it was our expectation when we sent it forward, Catherine, that it would be acted on by the Board of Selectmen. We don't
Right.
have, as the SBC, the power to enter into contracts. Only
Correct.
Board of Selectmen can do that.
I guess, Mike, I'm just confused because it was signed by someone in the Board of Selectmen's office, so I don't know what the confusion is, to be honest with you.
I think we need to move on. We don't have the answer here, and I think we need to move on to other things. We
Agreed.
will try to, we can. If we get an answer from the Board of Selectmen, we may get more information that way. But we don't have any more information here. Do we have any other comments on this? On this agenda item?
Go back and watch the video. That's my comment.
You mean the video of the,
That motion and what we clearly stated is very clear on the video.
okay, and that was in what, that was in the meeting that he was talking about?
Special
before?
meeting.
The special meeting, okay.
Absolutely.
So that's a good recommendation also. Okay, are we ready to move on to new business? Okay, New business, we have, updated appraisals have come in. We have a revised updated appraisal from Haggerty, you see item 2, and we have an appraisal from CBRE also. I'm waiting for advice on whether we can release those right now because of the blackout period. I will wait until we get the advice, and as soon as I get the advice, I will let the SBC know by email if we can or cannot release it in the blackout period. And if we cannot, we'll wait till after the referendum, and if we can, I will release it immediately. Any questions before I move on? Yes.
Now I'm further confused. You just explained to us that the option to purchase this property no longer exists because it expired.
Yes.
And now we're discussing appraisal.
Well, no, I didn't say the option to purchase it doesn't exist. I said that the agreement is expired. That's all.
But the appraisals for it are still valid? How could we be appraising something that we are no longer?
How would they? I don't understand the point. The appraisals are a document that appraises the value of the property. The appraisal doesn't change because of our letter of intent or not.
Okay, so I must just be confused. I'm sorry.
Any other questions on the appraisals? Ralph, do you have a question about the appraisals?
No, I don't. I was just hoping to try and shed light on that in items 8A and B. My understanding of the blackout period is that the town cannot promote a vote in the referendum. The appraisal of the property has really nothing to do with the referendum vote. So I don't know that you're promoting anything. Seeking wisdom from counsel is not a bad idea. And I'm just offering a layperson's opinion.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
I understand your concern, and I'll tell you as chairman, what I'm concerned about is that I make a move that violates the blackout period. And I'm just trying to be careful of that. And my concern is that, let's say the appraisals say something that people aren't expecting that could be perceived by people in town as influencing. And I just want to be sure we're doing the right thing. That's all.
Okay, that's fine.
And Mike, if I could interject it, again, advice from council was that simply the perception of a yes or a no sway is something we have to consider, and not just sharing the information, but the discussion of the board that could happen afterwards. That's really where there could be something that was perceived in the discussion of an item. So to use caution was encouraged.
Okay, so as soon as I have an answer, I'll let you know. SCG 053 site analysis engineering. Scott, is this something you will update us on?
Just very briefly, Scott Pellman from Collier's Project Leaders. Yes, I spoke to Quisenberry or Kerry Malik. I spoke to Rusty earlier today. They're almost complete with pulling the required supporting documentation together. I've asked them to send me a draft so I can review that with Phil, and we'll send that to you as well, Mike, for review. And I'm anticipating having that by the end of the week, but they're almost finished with that required paperwork and evaluation. And that's all I have to say about the 0530, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott on that? All right, seeing none, next item. Scott, I think you're all set if you want to get out of here.
I'd love to, if there's no more questions for me. Thank you very much, committee. And, you know, as soon as I have any information, Mike, I will forward it on to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay. FOIA request. Ralph, you asked to have this put on the agenda. Do you have a question or something, or do you want me to recap what I know, or what?
Well, let me tell you what I know. I don't know who this request for emails went to, aside from me. what I don't appreciate is the limited amount of time I had to pull everything together when that request was almost a month old. So I was a little bit annoyed by that. And I just wanted to express my sentiments about that. I believe I've submitted everything that I have. And that fulfills my obligation under FOI.
All right. Anybody else? Do you have?
I do.
Okay.
I'm more confused than Ralph when I got the same email. I don't understand. Well, let me back up. At our last meeting, in the second president to speak, Nicholas Tella wanted to know why his FOI hadn't been acted upon. And I didn't even know there was an FOI request. Then subsequently, I got that email requesting information. So when did we get this communication and why are we getting it? That's what I don't understand.
So.
What is the basis? And was it that individual? Was it somebody else? I don't even know.
So the FOI request came to the selectman's office. We were working on the FOI request. And the information that was sought to individuals that fell under that item of the FOI.
Which is the acquisition of property.
Which was, you got an exact email of the item in the FOI that reflected your request. If you had it also, there was an email from me asking if you had any questions to contact me directly, of which you haven't. I haven't received any emails. We worked with IT.
Oh, I didn't see that part of it. All I saw was the requesting of documents regarding land acquisition.
No, it was requesting emails from you. There was detail in there.
Yes, that's what he was
Asking for
referring to.
emails to your personal, any email where you would have conducted town business, that we did a thorough search of town emails, but if you used other email to conduct that business, you needed to turn over any information that you had.
Well, I don't understand, because when did
I don't
our
have the-
committee become subject to FOI requests?
Can I tell you the part I know? Or do you?
Well, I can answer that.
Okay.
You do work of the town. So if you use your so if you use your personal account and someone puts in an FOI request, your information is subject to FOI. You became that when you became subject to it when you became a member of the
I
SBC.
understand FOI. What I don't understand is when was there an FOI request received by the school building committee?
It was not.
It was not.
It was received in the selectman's office. I think I said that already. But it included members of the SBC. Therefore, I sent a request for information to every person that it pertained to.
So what does this have to do with the SBC?
It was in this, so I didn't see the email, but from what Ralph has told
So you
me,
didn't get one?
Well,
no, because I'm using town email. So it's a
well,
different
you
process.
were included in that as well, but for
No,
whatever
I
reason,
didn't
it
get the
didn't go
email.
to you. So I think
Yeah.
you had mentioned that to me and I said, your email had been
Well, I was
included.
wondering why we didn't get any communication from the chair.
Right,
You didn't
I
get
didn't,
anything.
right, I didn't know
Okay.
you had gotten that communication, so
Right.
Ralph told me that.
So me and Ralph are the only ones that received
You and
this?
Ralph are not. SBC members, Peter, received one. It also went to Mike. Why it was not received, I cannot speak to, but it was his town email. Because Mike conducts business on his town email. through the SBC.
So there's a different process, technically, there's a different process for town emails versus personal emails.
We have access, the town has access to all of.
So you already
the town.
have all that information?
I have anything that came and went from a town email. If you conducted business on your personal email that you use for SBC, doing SBC business, you are asked for that information, matching the criteria in the FOI. I'm not sure how much more simple I can state it.
So I will add also that the request, from what I understand, somewhat from anecdotal information and from what I received in notifications, was the request came in at a certain date. I don't remember exactly what the date was, but it came in at a certain date. It goes through a process there's a town policy, and then the town attorney sets up a certain process of saying they go into the IT people. IT does a sweep to pull out so that the town can present everything from the town emails. When they do that, they see that other people have used personal emails, then they go out to the personal emails and they contact those people and say, you've used your personal email for town business, anything that fits in this criteria, submit it. So there's sort of a series of steps that happen.
It's
That's my
not quite
understanding.
like that, Mike, but I can tell you the work is done in my office. And it was me. So
Okay, well-
solo in my office, therefore the voluminous requests took a lot of time to get to. So not that it's not any more important than others, but I have to prioritize some of the things I have. And IT does go through the town emails, but they cannot pull your personal emails. They do not have access to your personal email. Therefore, you were all asked for anything that pertained to the items within the request. If you have none, then you should respond as such.
Okay, I will do that. So there's no direct request to our school building committee.
Correct.
There's no FOI request because we're a public.
It was an FOI request to the town.
Everybody is a public, but every piece of business you do as a member of this committee is subject to FOI.
Okay, I just didn't understand what was being sought or what the questions were about our conduct, I guess. That's what I'm trying to understand. I'm less worried about the process.
But the request doesn't come through, it comes in an FOI request for specific items that people are asking, someone might be asking for. And what you received was specific to what you could potentially have. There were other items in the request, but they didn't pertain to you, so Tom, it wasn't shared.
Okay.
Other committee members, I don't know who had their hand up first, so we'll start with Ann.
I don't believe I received a request like that. Is it something you could send again? Or I missed it?
So
And
would she
you
be
only,
subject?
well, so what we used for criteria was how we communicate with you. And I believe, Ann, we communicate with you through your.
Actually, it's my personal email.
Then you would have gotten that. So I will go back through, I don't have the email in front of me, and make sure we had the correct email.
Okay.
And then they all went and sent again.
Thank you, Erica.
But I know multiple members did receive the email.
Okay, we'll go to James next.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Mike. I don't want to beat the bush. I have really nothing to do with this, with anything contained in that FOIA, and it's available online, which is the only reason that I know that I'm directly named in the thing. And I haven't seen it yet. I think Erica answered my question in that, I only do town, that new town email that I have is the only thing I use to conduct business here. So I assume you have access to that. I just want to make sure you don't need anything from me. I came in well after the FOIA request.
Sent, again, multiple members got it. So if you were named in the email and it was not an open email, so you received the email directly for you. Others you would not have seen, would not have pertained to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Catherine?
Yes, so I did get the email on the 9th and the request for information is on the 14th. So I just want to echo what Ralph was saying. It doesn't really give us a lot of time to pull together the last 2 years of our work, going through all the emails that may be relevant to a certain subject. I'm not sure how critical that date is, but with respect to the next item I was going to ask about was if we furnish this FOI information during the blackout period, is that appropriate? I mean, is that going to violate anything? I think we should ask someone before we furnish FOI documentation that may or may sway someone either way, intentionally or unintentionally. So I just question in my head, should we furnish this documentation after the referendum? Just because I'm not familiar with the exact rules of the blackout period. So I think we should maybe ask that question. And then I might have missed it, but did we skip over?
Catherine, can you hang on a second so we can answer that question, please? Just hang on a second.
Yeah, so the intent was not to hold anything until any one particular date. You certainly bring up a valid point. We've been discussing at length the blackout period to make sure that we don't put the town in jeopardy. And one of the things, I believe it was in the information that was shared, was a simple statement if information that is created using town resources, that would be town funds, that you believe is going to be published, then that could be something that that exists. The intent is not to hold anything till any one time. I certainly can ask the question and if it violates, but you know, I certainly, again, I know it's a voluminous request. I gave you a time frame, but Catherine, you know, you reached out to me directly, and I said if you could work on it as expeditiously as possible. And I appreciate that, and appreciate that it is a lengthy request and a voluminous request. We did ask the submitter to consider narrowing the scope to no response. So I asked for it, and I have not heard from others, but I'm, you know, hearing some here who say they haven't received the correspondence. I'll make sure I send it out again.
Okay, so Catherine, I will say, I'm just gonna take a stand on this as chairman. When, notwithstanding the time it takes you to do the collecting of the information, do not hold the information because you're concerned about the blackout period. Get the information back to Erica. She will have the opportunity to consult with the legal side of it and decide about that.
Absolutely.
For
Yeah.
our part of it, once you have your information together, please send it in.
Yeah, no, I understand that part. I wasn't gonna hold anything back. It's just a lot. So.
Understood. What was the rest
yeah.
of your question?
I don't know if I missed it. Did we intentionally skip over items 8D and E or?
I guess it's
What were items 8D and E? Was my,
SBC member resignation and vacancy.
Yeah.
recap?
that's not even on my agenda.
Mike retyped his own agenda and it's missing a couple things.
I had a problem with my printer and I had to like cut and splice two different pages together, and I think I got some missing stuff. Let's finish this conversation, okay?
Okay, that's all I had. I just wanted to at least ask the question about how the issuance of, or fulfilling the FOI request and the blackout period. I just think.
Okay,
the
we've answered
selectmen
that.
should ask that question, I think.
I'll follow up. There was never an intent to hold it until a certain date. But I haven't heard from everyone that has been given a request.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else on the SBC who uses personal email but did not get this request, please let us know right now. Okay. Do we have anything else on the FOI topic?
No, Brianna has anything.
Oh, Brianna.
Hi, I got the email. I responded just for further reference. Does the person requesting the FOIA choose the date and the time frame, or is that something that's like statutory or has rules somewhere?
No, that was simply me requesting. We have an obligation to respond within a particular amount of time, and we did that and that we received it, but because of the voluminous request, it was going to take some time.
Oh, I don't mean, I know we're talking about it specific to what we're doing, but just if I need to do this for, let's say, another committee or board or whatever at another time, is there like within 30 days, or does the person who's requesting it get to choose that response?
No, there's FOI has some criteria, and within 4 days, we have to respond. The person that receives the request, not you, but we received the request as a town. And so within these 4 days responded and said it might take longer to gather the documentation.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good.
Okay. So apparently some people have more things on their agenda. So let's talk about item 8D, SBC member resignation. I think we've already heard about it in presence to speak. Unfortunately, Gary Anderson had to leave the committee. He has significant work and family commitments that he was already stressing with this committee, and he felt he just had to he hung in as long as he could, and he had to move on to other priorities in his life. And we will definitely miss his expertise. As everyone on this committee comes with certain things that are very valuable to the committee, his resume and his experience was also valuable to us. Wishing good things to Gary and acknowledging that he will be missed. We have to move on to filling that vacancy. And I partly put this on because I had hoped by now to get the answer, but I hadn't had time to get the answer to find out what was his particular position referred to as, like what did it mean for requirements?
Member at large.
Member at large, okay. So that can essentially be anybody from, anyone from the community?
Anyone qualified to serve on the town board of committee, he must live in town.
Okay,
And that, those requests should go through the board of selectmen.
okay, there you go. That's the information I needed. So if there's anyone out there, if you know someone who you want to pass it on to, people who are eligible to serve on Willington boards who are interested should submit their interest to the Board of Selectmen. Because the Board of Selectmen does appoint us to this committee, obviously.
Mike,
Yeah,
as far as these two items go, I don't see any sense of urgency here until after we know the results of the referendum.
well,
That person's,
we don't have another meeting till after that anyway.
what's that?
We don't have another meeting till after that anyway.
I understand. I was just kind of making an observation, that's all. I mean, that person's gonna come in cold, so. Okay.
Fair point. Any other comment on this before we move on? Okay, items for future agendas. Obviously I don't know, Phil, if you caught those 2 minutes for the subcommittees. Yeah, I thought I saw you writing that down.
3 minutes, 3:15 minutes, 4 and 4:18 minutes for land.
For the land
And
subcommittee,
then Eagle Phase 2 report.
Eagle Phase 2 report. Yep.
Recording secretary.
Oh, recording secretary. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Recording secretary. Thank you, Phil.
I might have a lead on that.
That would be phenomenal.
Awesome.
So just Mike, I think I'd mentioned, I reached out to you, mentioned to you, although Kelsey, elected employee in the town, she had been filling many different roles and filling in when there were things to do. She recognized that we didn't have anyone, asked if our minutes had been done, and then offered to do them for the last meeting. And
That is
so
greatly appreciated.
like I said, that was appreciated. So we anticipate the 3-1 ones tomorrow, but we certainly need to fill that role.
Yes.
I agree. You have 3 hands on the screen, Mike.
All right, so I did alphabetical order before. Let's do alphabetical order in reverse this time. Ralph.
We had moved to the RFQ for OPM at the end of this section.
Yes. I'm sorry.
That was my comment too.
I'm sorry. This is not my best night tonight. I'm sorry.
Not grouchy anymore.
Okay, so the status, I think all of you know, is we got the questions in by the deadline from interested parties. Questions came in by the 13th. I grabbed a few people who were willing to work on reviewing those questions. It's not a complicated process. It's essentially looking at the RFP and saying did we make a clerical error or whatever? And one of those was a clerical error. There was a date wrong. There was a day and a date that didn't line up, like a Tuesday should have been a Monday, but the date was correct. So there were only a few questions to answer. It's basically boilerplate stuff. And I've had help from Phil, Catherine, Ralph, myself, I think, right? Yeah, to answer those. The questions were all pretty simple. We'll have them cleaned up by the morning and out. We had a little trouble with revisions on the Google Doc about seeing comments and with what I've done to butcher the agenda tonight. I have no idea if what I looked at this afternoon was even the right document.
We'll connect.
So we'll check in the morning and make sure we have all the questions answered, but it was pretty simple stuff. And so the question answers will go back out tomorrow. And we still are then we'll wait for the proposals to come in. We'll put together a group to review them. And then get them to the committee for full committee review. Catherine?
I would be willing to review those if you need someone on a task group to assist. But that wasn't what I was gonna say. I was gonna add an item to the future business, but I don't think are we back on that topic right now, or?
Just hang on to it for a second so I don't confuse myself again.
Yep.
Ann, go ahead.
What is the proposal due date?
24th, I think.
March 24th.
March
Yes.
24th. Okay, thank you.
Which is on a different day of the week than one of the lines says.
Okay,
It
Thank
said
you.
Tuesday.
It said Tuesday, it's really a Friday. Yeah. Jim,
I just want to say the same here. I'd be happy to help review, advise, whatever, on any of the RFPs, RFQs.
thank you.
Let me know.
Anything else on the OPM RFQ? Okay, Catherine, you had something for future agenda items.
I do, and seeing how we now have both appraisals that are required for the state application, SCGO 53. I would like to request that we go into executive session in one of our future meetings. It doesn't have to be the very next meeting, but I think it would be worth going into executive session to discuss the appraisals and possible negotiation on the property.
Okay, we'll put it on a future agenda item.
Thank you.
Anything else for future agenda items? All right, let's move to present to speak. We have nobody in the room, so we'll go to online. Nick?
Nick Tello, 49 Myrtle. Just saw some notes here. So no discussions with the lawyer Erica had stated there, but let it be known that she has at least once motioned and voted to go into executive session to discuss that letter of intent. I find it interesting. We're doing appraisals on lands randomly, I guess, that, we might buy, we might not buy. It's pretty much demonstrating the intent to purchase this land. If we were so neutral, why don't we hold off until passage of the referendum? I'm glad to see that the board seems to understand the importance of cleaning their act up. I think that was kind of displayed tonight, but the SBC has already been tainted. Personally, it needs to be dissolved and revisited with new members, as Erica's participation in getting the referendum to a point to be passed was inappropriate, totally inappropriate, as our family is to benefit from it. As the person that submitted the FOI, I find it inappropriate. If I'm correct, it was February 16th that it was submitted. And to hear that it took, I don't know what the days are, but from February 16th to March 9th to get that into the appropriate members, it meets to exactly the fear and concern that I had, that it was going to be purposely delayed to get these emails out. It was a tactic that I saw coming, and it came to be true. Let's see. And then I know Brianna had asked, I've been dealing with these FOIAs and 4 days to respond. As far as a reasonable time frame, depending on the scope of the request, there's nothing really in writing. It's more subjective, according to the lawyers at the FOIA department for the state. And hey, save some face. If you're going to go in executive session for in regards to the family property, I really don't think Erica should be part of those executive sessions, to save a little bit of face. That's all I have to say for them. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
Nobody with a hand up.
All right. I believe that brings us to adjournment.
So move.
I have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second,
All right, all those in favor, say aye and wave
Aye.
goodbye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Looks like the motion passes. Good night, everybody, and thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.